Hi everyone, I'm Rockin Robin from CookingMexicanRecipes.com. Today I'm going to be making caramelized onions. Now I'm a huge fan of this recipe because when you caramelize onions, you bring out this rich, deep, roasted, mildly sweet flavor that when you add it to a recipe, it just takes it to the next level. It's just incredible, so you got to try it. So anyway, stay right there. I'll be right back and I'll show you how to do it. So all we need for caramelized onions are, today I'm just going to make a couple of onions. These are just yellow onions. You can use red onions, you can use sweet onions, doesn't really matter. We'll need a little bit of salt and olive oil. That's pretty much it. Okay, so let's start with slicing up our onions. Now there's a couple of ways you can do this. We can dice it, and I like to use a dice when I'm making spaghetti sauce or soup, where I kind of want the flavor there, but I want the onion to kind of disappear. Now, if you're just making caramelized onions you're going to put it on top of a piece of meat, let's say, or on top of a baked potato, then you can just do slices and you'll have bigger pieces and it'll be more noticeable. So let's get started. All right, so you take your onion and you want to cut off the two ends. Slice them off. All right, then we'll cut it in half. We're going to peel off, obviously, this skin. And with this onion, I'm going to show you both ways of cutting it. All right, so on this half of the onion, we're going to show you the dice. All right, so basically what we want to do is I'm going to make some cuts horizontally. And I don't want to go all the way through the onion. And watch your fingers. When you start getting close to the blade, you want to just really be careful with that. Okay, now we're going to make some vertical cuts. And we don't want to go all the way through. And you're going to make them about, I don't know, half an inch, quarter an inch apart. Okay, then when we make our cut, we're just go down like this, and you can see that the pieces are all diced, just like that. And then depending on how small you want your dice, you can also go back and run your knife through it again and make it even smaller. Now when you get to the end of your onion, this part wasn't cut very much because I didn't want to go all the way through. It would fall apart. So I do want to mention too, and I didn't mention earlier, is when you cut, you want to make like a claw with your fist or with your hand, and then your knife goes against those knuckles and you won't cut off any fingers. Here we go. I've got my onion cut in half like I showed you already, and we're going to go ahead and start slicing. So basically, remember again, make your fingers into a claw. The knife hits these knuckles. The fingers are protected because they're back. And just make your slices. They can be as thin or as thick as you like. I sort of like a medium, slice like that. And you just keep moving your fingers back. Okay, so before we start cooking or caramelizing our onions, I want to go over one thing, and this is the most important thing. That when you caramelize onions, it's a very low and slow process. Don't let anybody kid you and say they can cook caramelized onions in 15 minutes because it really doesn't work. So this is going to take us 45 minutes. I know it takes a long time, but believe me, it's worth it in the end. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be cooking I'm going to start it out at medium-high. I'm going to add some olive oil. I kind of just estimate here maybe a tablespoon or maybe two, depending on how many onions I have. And I'm going to add just a little bit of butter. I didn't mention that in the beginning. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. But it adds a little extra flavor, which I'm always looking for more flavor. So I'm going to add just a little bit of butter. Like I said, medium-high heat. Once this butter melts and starts to bubble a little bit, then I'll be ready to add my onions. All right. So now you can see the bubbles in the butter. So now it's time to add our onions. Now I'm adding both kinds, obviously, to this. because I just wanted to demonstrate to you the different kinds of ways of cutting the onions. It's all good. Now this might seem like a lot of onions to you, but believe me, this is gonna cook down to probably a little less than half of what you see right here. So now what we do, you can hear that sizzle maybe. We're gonna stir this up. We're gonna keep the heat on medium, and once it starts to, cook a little bit, I'll probably turn it down. We're gonna cook this the whole time between medium-low and low. All right, so I know this takes a long time, but you can do other things. You can clean up the kitchen, wash a few plates, chop up more vegetables, depending on what you're making. Always come back and tend to this every few minutes, because if you don't, there is a tendency that it might burn. So come back every couple minutes, get in there, give it a stir, see how it's doing, and then do something else, and just keep coming back to it. Oh, and also, I forgot, let's add a little bit of salt right to that. We're gonna sprinkle that around. That'll help draw out some of the moisture and kind of speed things up just a little bit. So I've been cooking the onions now for an hour, and I want you to look and see how much they've cooked down. And you're probably wondering, like, how do I know when they're done? Okay, there's different degrees of doneness. You could stop right here, or you could keep going and they would just continue to caramelize and get much, much darker. And so it's just a judgment call. So when you're cooking these, I would go at least 45 minutes, and then from then, you make the call. These are certainly nice and browned up, but again, you could go longer. So that's how you make caramelized onions. Now remember what I said. How long does it take? Remember to make these low and slow. 45 minutes, I would say, would be the minimum amount of time that you want to spend. Now these here cooked for a little bit over an hour, and you can see they're nice and golden brown, and the volume of them has certainly shrunk down. This is probably that was 2 onions, 2 big onions, and it made about 1 cup of caramelized onion. So you're going to want to try and make a lot of this at one time because it takes so much time. That way you can save it and use it for later use. Now a good thing you can do with this is make a bunch and then store it in the freezer. Put it in little compartments, maybe a half a cup's worth, label it, and it's good in the freezer. It'll stay for about 6 months. Other than that, whatever you have left over, you can store it in the refrigerator covered, and that will keep about a week, week and a half. Another way to make caramelized onions in volume would be to use your crock pot. So go ahead, you can get about 3 to 4 pounds of onions. That would be maybe 5 or 6 big ones. Slice them up like I showed you. Take your crock pot, spray it with a little Pam so it doesn't stick. Go ahead and put your onions in. Put in about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil, maybe just a touch of salt. Cover it, put it on high for 8 to 10 hours, and stir it if you're around. If you can stir it every couple of hours, give it a little mix, you will have a whole big pot of caramelized onions without much of your having to tend to it. So give that a try. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys will try caramelized onions. Try them on everything. In fact, leave me a comment below and let me know how you like to use your caramelized onions. And if you've never had them before, let me know that too. So be sure and subscribe to my channel by clicking on that button right up there. And I have a newsletter. If you're interested in that, you can sign up for my free newsletter by clicking the link below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.